Hey, hello everybody. I'm Jessie D, your favorite crafting bestie, and today I'm going to show you how to do the vintage Christmas trees that I made this year for Christmas. A little bit of housekeeping though first. Make sure to follow, like, share, and subscribe to my social medias. Liking and shares really help me to be able to keep creating these tutorials for you guys for free on my website. So a big thank you to everyone. I absolutely love sharing the crafting side of my world. Your support allows me to keep doing this on all my different social media platforms, and I'm hoping that I can grow this into a larger community, and you guys are part of that. So thank you again for all your reposts, all your shares, all your likes, all your comments. They all help me, and I can't say thank you enough. All right, let's get into the tutorial. The first thing that you want to do is you want to go to my website, dartapparel.com, and download the tree pattern for the shapes. There's 3 different sizes. You're going to print them off onto regular printer paper, so A1 paper, 8.5 by 11. And then you're going to tape them together for the bigger ones. Once you have that done, then you're going to cut out 4 of each piece for each tree. You can decide what kind of trees you want to do, but you want to cut out 4 of each fabric from each fabric. So I already have 3, and this is going to be my 4th. So once you have 4 pieces cut out of each fabric and each size, you're going to want to place 2 together, right sides together, and then sew around the edge of the tree, starting at the bottom. It's going to use about 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you're also going to want to leave about 5 to 6 inch opening at the bottom of the tree, and I'd err on the side of 6, just because you're going to inside this out, and then you're going to end up having to sew the 2 panels that you inside out together, and you're going to need enough space at the bottom in order to insert the polyfill into the tree. So once you finish the first side, you're going to want to repeat the same thing on the second set of trees. Again, remember to keep the right sides together. Once you complete sewing around the edge of that, keeping that opening at the bottom, you are going to want to inside out both of the trees that you created. And you can do so using a dowel or something that has a little bit of a point. You want to make sure that it's not going to poke through the actual fabric, but you definitely will want to use something like the end of a pencil or the end of a paintbrush, something that can get into those points to push the fabric through. And before you start to inside it out, you are going to want to quickly clip those concave points for each tree. That way, once you inside it out, they're not pulling. If you just give them a little bit of clip, but don't clip past the thread, that'll help. So once you inside it out, those don't create any pulling points, because we want to get those points nice and clean before we iron them. Okay, so I just ironed these flat like this. I turned back the seam allowance, ironed the entire tree flat. There's 2 of them. So now I stacked them one on top of the other, and I'm going to go back over to my sewing machine and just stitch down the center there to create the 4 different panels. All right, so here I make sure to line them up down the middle, and I'm going to sew from the top to the bottom of the tree in a straight line. Make sure to reverse at the beginning and the end of the stitching line. The next step is to take your Christmas tree and start stuffing the polyfill into each of the 4 sections from the bottom of the tree. You're going to want to fill these up all the way. I recommend using, again, either a paintbrush, a screwdriver, or something where you can really get that polyfill into those tiny points. If you don't do that, then you might end up with kind of floppy trees after the polyfill settles. So just make sure that you are stuffing it full. You're going to want to stuff 1 panel at a time. Unless it's the really tall tree, then I recommend stuffing the top section of each 4 panels, because it's a little bit harder to reach once the panels are full. So just kind of stuff it from the top of the tree to the bottom. Once you complete a section, you're going to want to then sew that section closed. So I've done that by just doing a basic top stitch, stitching those layers together. So it's a total of 4 layers if you're including the seam allowance, but you're just going to top stitch from the end of the opening to the center of the tree, and then stop when you hit the end of that section. And then you're going to repeat that for the 3 other sections. So I'm adding a couple different views here on a few different trees, just so you can see exactly what I'm doing when I'm sewing the opening shut. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. You're then going to want to complete the star. There's a star pattern piece in the tree file, so you're going to reference that for the size and shape. Cut 2 out of the star, and then put the star right sides together and sew around the edge of it, starting at the bottom. Make sure you leave about 1 to 1.5 inches open at the bottom of the star. That way you'll be able to turn the star inside out. So once you've sewn around the star, then you're going to want to trim those concave points just up to the thread, those inside points of the star, so you don't get any pulling when you inside it out. And then once it's inside it out, you're going to want to stuff the star with polyfill and work it with your paintbrush or your pencil end to make sure that it's stuffed into all those individual points so it stays full and firm. And then after you have that complete, the next step is to pin the star to the top top of your tree. So you're going to insert the top of the tree into the opening of the star, and you're going to want to kind of fold back and ease back that seam allowance for that star. It is small, so you do want to be careful. Just kind of roll it under and then pin it in place. Once you finish pinning that in place, you can then go and whip stitch that star onto the top of your tree, like I'm doing here. And it's going to take a little bit, but it turns out so cute. So just take your time and get that star attached to the top of the tree. After you have that completed, you have the base of your tree all set. The next step is going to be to decorate your tree. So here's a great opportunity. If you purchase some beads and some ribbons and glitter garland, you can now use those to decorate your trees. I put a little bit of the glitter garland along with a few beads in the center of my star on both sides, just to give the star a little extra pop. I then used silk ribbons and the glitter garland for the bows on the tree tips, and I only put bows on the top two tips of the tree. And as you can see here, I'm just creating a simple bow, and then I'm sewing through that bow and attaching it onto the end to make sure it stays in place. And once you've completed sewing all your bows onto the ends, congratulations, you have completed your Christmas trees. And please, please remember to share these. These are so fun to see. I love seeing everybody's crafts. Tag me in your social media posts if you can, or send me a DM if you're a private account. I'd love to see it. Half the joy in crafting is sharing your crafts with everyone, and that means you guys need to share your crafts with me too. I'm halfway kidding. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I do love to see them. And that concludes the tutorial. So thank you again, everybody. Remember to follow, like, subscribe, share, comment, and don't forget to tag me.